Hello and welcome back with Let Morris, um, going into pattern making. And we're once again, this is the style that we're doing. We're going to be creating this beautiful style design here that we have. So we've got your paper ready, your pencils, your tools. We've got your blocks. We're going to start with your blocks. I've already pre-prepared by marking off the block, so we can move the blocks out the way. And these are the pre-prepared pieces, and I've extended it for the length that we want. So from the waistline, you make the length that you want, and you copy it off. And so these are now your drafts. That's the front and that's the back draft. And I've also pre-prepared, but I'm just going to run through it with you, the style lines that we have or that we want for our design. So I've pre-prepared and I've drawn them all on. So I'm just going to run through this quickly with you. We're going to start off with the back, so we can put the front on one side, and this is the back. I've already marked on the neckline for my back. I've created the line for where I'm going to put my drape, and you can see that I've colored it in, I've highlighted in, and I've also nipped it in at the waist because I've got a dart here and I don't want any darts at the back. So I'm going to put a 1/2 inch taking in there and a 1/2 inch in here. So if your dart is 1.5 inches, you've only got, or 1.25 inches, you've only got that little bit in there. You can leave that for room. So I've taken that off and I've taken it in and I've taken it back up to just across the back area where I've come in. So the line is now slightly curved, not straight, and I've done the same on the waist at the side. I've come in and I've taken it back to nothing there, and I've taken it back to nothing at the hip line. So you can see where I've shaded it in there and there. And what I've actually done, I've decided on how wide I want my shoulders to be, and I've put a mark there out, and I've made my style line and I've marked it on where I want it to drape along there. So everything you create on your draft. And the next thing I do, I tapered my hemline, which I always do, 1 inch and a quarter, and I've taken that back and I've taken it back up into the hip line, and I've decided on how deep I want my skirt circle to be, and I've measured up and I've squared a line across to there, and I've gone up 2 inches or 3 inches because it's slightly shaped up from the side and down and up again. So this is a new line that I've got here, and I've marked it on and I've shaded it in because that's going to be a separate pattern piece we're going to make. So here we go. We've done all of this onto your draft. And the other thing that I've done here, I've taken a bit off the shoulder because of the puff sleeve, the nature of the puff sleeve. You can afford to take some off. So I've taken off about a 1/2 inch to 5/8 off the end of the shoulder, and I've taken it back into the armhole just past halfway down and reshape it in there. So I'm going to take off that bit as well when I create my pattern. So now you've created all the style features that you want on your garment, on your draft. What we do is, the first thing we're going to do this section here, which is the cawl section. So I'm going to mark that off and trace that off on a new sheet of paper. So I'm going to put that on top of here like this, and I'm going to trace that off. So around the neckline here, and I'm going to go, I've taken it back about 1 inch there because that's where I want that line, the shaping to start, 1 inch from the neck point. So I've marked it there, and I'm just going to trace around that line with my tracing wheel like that to take that off, because that's going to create my cowl neck area. And you've got to remember that you've taken off, you've gone along here. So I'm going to come down here for this line here, that little bit off of there. And then I'm going to move my draft, and then I'm going to connect up all the lines so that you can see the lines that we've got on here. So we've got the neckline. I'm going to trace that, put that back on there so that I can get my neckline because it didn't come through. So I'm going to trace off the neckline here as well and along the top. So here we go. So this is now your neckline, and this is the piece that we're going to use for our cowl. So we just mark up the lines and mark that line on, which is there, and it comes round to a round. So once we've got that, what I'm going to do is just cut out that piece, because this is the piece that I'm going to create my cowl neckline with. So we cut out that shape here. Like that. I'm just going to cut that out. I've given that a straight line there along the back, along here, and along the shoulder, my inch. So that's the new shape that I've got. So now that I've got that, I'm going to divide this into 3 sections. So I'm going to do that, and another line here through to the neckline down to there. So I've got 1, 2, 3 sections. So now that I've got that, I'm going to slash from the top of the neck through here, because this is where I want my cowl to be in my neckline up to there. I don't want that line to get any wider, so you don't slash it all the way through there. Just leave a little bit dangling. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold my paper. I'm going to fold your paper because I want my edge to be on the fold. So I'm going to fold that. I'm going to place that right up to the edge of the paper like that. And I'm going to then secure that with a sellotape or a prick stick, whatever you've got, your pins. You can sellotape it with you can secure it with a pin or a sellotape. And then I'm going to place that right up to the edge on the fold there, so that my hands are free, so I can open these out. So I'm just going to open them out as wide as it will let you go, like that. So you open out, so it's looking like that. So you must open them evenly. Whatever the space is in here, it's got to be the same in that section there. So you go as far as you can go, and you will find that this shape is changing, but don't worry about that because we're going to get a nice shape back into there. Right, so once that's open, I'm just going to put a little mark there and one here and across the little shoulder mark that we have, and along there and along that edge, and maybe in between there. So we've got a guideline for when we shape that back. So once we've got that, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to square a line from the center back across to that point there, that first point that we've got there. Right, so we go like that, and I'm going to square that up so it touches that point. And once that touches that point and it's squared, your thing squared, I am just going to connect a line all the way through to that point. Okay, like that. So once I've got that, you'll find that that's where the top of that is, but don't worry about it because that is your cowl shape that is forming. You must square it out to that last point there across to the shoulder, the neck point that you've got. So once you've got that, you can take your pattern piece off, those pieces that you've got now, because you've got the lines that you want, and just mark on the line a bit more clearer so you get a good line like that. And that's your shoulder bit going across there, and we're going to add a seam allowance on the shoulder there. And then what we do is we're going to get a nice shape round there, back into this line. So when I said don't worry about how it's going at this end, you just connect up a nice shape back into there, around, so it's nice and round like that. So once you've got that, what we're going to do now is we're going to add a seam allowance on this side. So you add a centimetre, because that's all you need to join that back into your body. So you add the centimetre around there, all the way around, and then just curve around the line, because that is a curve. Give it a nice curve round. And then what we're going to do, we're going to fold on this line here, because we want some seam allowance to go at the top of the cowl, so we get a nice draping in there. So we're going to fold on that line there, like that we've got along there, down there. And then what we do is we're going to cut out on that line while it's folded, because this part here is the shoulder. And then all we do is just connect up. We just cut out on this line here, along there, and then we can open out. Once we open out, we're getting that shape. And then what we do is we're going to go from that shape here, we're going to shape that around to create our face. And we don't do a straight line, because we want it to be deeper at this end than it is here. So we just create a nice shaping round like that for our cowl shape facing. So it looks like that. So now that we've got that, we can now cut out on that shape here to create the cowl shaping, just like that. So that is the cowl shaping along there. And we're going to put a notch here, so that we know that's where it breaks back for the cowl. So you put a notch right there, and then you open out so it comes out on the other side, and that's your cowl shaping piece. And all we do is on this piece for our grain line, we're going to cut it on the bias, because from experience, I know the cowl lies so much nicer when it's cut out on the bias. So that's why I always do my cowl with a separate piece, so that we can cut it on the bias. So that is your cowl shape that we have for your front or your back neckline. The cowl section here that we've just created that. So then we're going to cut one of those, and that's the cowl pattern piece. So there we are for the cowl back neck. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create this other section of your back pattern, which is that part of the dress. So what we do is we're going to copy off this section here that we've marked on, along that new section that we've marked, and along here this line, and down that line there, back into here, and up that line. So we create that. So basically what we've got is, I'm just going to mark this off so that you can see. So we're going to be tracing off this. Let's use this piece of paper that we've got left over. So we can use this. Actually, it's not big enough, so we'll use a new sheet. So we're going to basically copy off this section here that we've got, and we're going to have to trace it, because don't forget we went in at the waist. We trace that off, and we're going to go around this section here up to here. We're going to go along the shoulders, and we're going to go take off this bit that we've marked along here, and down here take off this section that we've marked, and along this section here that we marked, and this section that we've marked. So once we've got that, we can also put in a side waist notch along there. so that we've got that. So we've got everything in. So that's your waist, that's your waist. And I'll just mark this so that you can see. So we mark off all this section here, and I'm going to mark it along here so that you can see it, because actually you can follow this through on the other video that I've made. So that's what we do. We mark that off. So we've got all this new shape on here now, and we're going to come up to this shape here. So we've got that, and then we've got the neck line coming around, following around that shape. So that's what we've got. So once we've got that marked out on another sheet of paper, all we do is add the seam allowance around it. So you can watch that on the other video. So that's what we do. We've made the draping for the cowl, and we've now copied off. We're at the stage where we copied off the rest of it, which is this, and we just add seam allowance all around this. But you can watch that in the other one. So I'm going to break and I'll be back.